Hello, uh, my name is Dylan, as you guys know, and today I am talking about baseball, and more specifically, my life as a baseball player and how I've interacted with my community and traveling to other places and learning more about different communities and how they interact with baseball and other sports, such as like football, soccer, lacrosse, and all these other sports, and how the cultural and economic differences between these communities and like the differences that I've learned from and grown on in learning about these new things. And also being Cuban from my dad's side, and how many athletes from Cuba have pursued careers in pro sports, especially baseball, and how hard it is coming from certain communities and the inspiration they have to pursue their dreams in the United States. I also explain how communities can help athletes with their mental health because many athletes deal with things like depression and other like depression like other just like sad things in their life due to practices and like pain from practice and all these like physical body aches and many other things. And it can tear their careers apart if they let it get too strong and takes a toll on their body. And it can also have them lose passion for the game and the sport they're playing. And my scope is like my research about how communities are involved with their sports, how athletes are physically and mentally challenged, and how families and friends can help athletes. My personal aspect of this is more support helps bind teams and communities together, and how I've interacted with baseball players from different communities and cultural aspects, and mental challenges from baseball and being a student athlete. My thesis is baseball has helped me interact with not just baseball communities, but many other sports and their involved communities. So, baseball has also helped me connect with other sports when I'm going on trips for tournaments and meeting all these other sports like football, soccer, lacrosse, like I said, and being able to interact with them and learn about their life, their cultural aspects, and many other things. Some problems I have learned about while writing is how athletes are treated and how it affects their mental health, and people don't put enough support into their communities, sports, and games and practices and their student athletes that are in their community, and the physical pain that athletes go through, such as like either it's depression or just like pain from practice, like getting injured and not having the support to get through it. And some solutions are athletes deal with a lot of mental depression due to sports and lack of sleep and time for academics. They need professors and other people and students to realize how physically and mental draining it is being a student athlete and all the time, like 6 days a week, practicing, doing lifts, multiple practices a day, having film, studying the game, and then having to come back and study school, do homework, eat, get ready for bed, and all that stuff. It's very draining on the body, and that's why a lot of people deal with depression as an athlete. And I've seen it happen with a lot of people. Like some athletes have like dealt with depression so bad, like they just quit the sport or like they take their life, which isn't good. It's just, and it can build up. And my personal aspect of this writing is so my grandpa, he was born in Cuba, and that has been like the ancestry in my family. Other than that, my mom's side is white, and not really anything special. So like, and I'm writing from like the Cuban aspect, so this is where I got my inspiration, and I'm using it to explain the impacts that Cubans and other Dominican Republic and Latin American athletes have had on impacts in the game of baseball and other sports such as like football. um, I think Esteban Bayan and Minnie Mimosa and what they've done for the game of baseball and impacting all these Cuban athletes and many other Dominican athletes to pursue their dreams and become pro athletes and play baseball even though they don't live in like well-funded communities and they have to make their own equipment from like sticks and stuff, and that's how they get good at baseball and they get recruited, and that's how they pursue their dream. And I've grown up playing football and baseball and having a and my life, I've had a good football program, and we've always had tons of support from our community and other communities for how good we've been and wanting us to go far. And as a player, like this motivates you. It helps you to do better and play not just for your team, but for the fans watching and the communities watching online or around the state. For many other places, like families who aren't nearby, they watch online, keep up with the games. And the sources I've used is Norman Denzen and the autoethnography, and he helped me gain an understanding of what it's like to write an autoethnography and how to use it in my writing. And he explains how like opinions and influences by social media and other politics and other things, and to use it in your writing. And using this autoethnography connects like my experiences of baseball and the research on the topic I used, and help correlate it to help inform the reader of my writing. One of my outside sources, Laura Wilson and Ron Briley, is chronology of Latin Americans in baseball. They help me understand the impact that Latin Americans have had on the game of baseball. Players such as Esteban Bayan and Minnie Minosa have become some of the greatest baseball players from Cuba, and have influenced many more players from Latin America and Cuba to play baseball and many other sports. And I use this article by explaining how the game of baseball interacts with many different communities and cultures, and learning about players from Latin America and getting the chance to meet some of these people and can change the way people view the game and play the game of baseball. In David Shorter, Borderline Methodology, Shorter talks about how race and sexuality are represented in different cultures, and how women are treated differently, and how he grew up with this and learned from it. And I talk about how in many cultures, people can be separated due to their race or ethnicity. And sports gives them the chance for those people by learning about other athletes' differences and getting them closer together despite their differences, and always giving someone a chance. No matter like if you're black, white, Hispanic, anything, like sports are always there to bring people together, like your family, and just helps bind people together. Like not many people realize like the brotherhood of like football and baseball and all these other sports, but being together for literally a whole year, basically, you become like a family. It's like your family away from home. You get closer with their families, and they're always there for you. They support you. They help take you to games, practices if you don't have a ride. Like they're always there for you. And Eve Tuck, Suspending Damage, a letter to communities. She talks about how researchers talk about how the bad things that go in damage-centered communities, but she argues about it and says like the good things about these communities. And I talk about how sports, and I use this to talk about how sports and communities aren't described by how wealthy or poor one is, but the support and relationships that these sports have together. One of my outside sources is Stacey Warner and Marlene A. Dixon in Sports and Community on Campus. They explain the utilization of sports on campus and the necessity of a community within their sports. And they argue with the athletic point of view the interest of sports, leadership status, and competition within the sport. And I just use this talking about how my life as a student athlete and many other student athletes, and like what they deal with, and how people can like support more students and athletes and like within their community, and gaining knowledge of like how like what we do outside of like the sport and like community service and all this stuff, like things to do to better our community and get people to like support us. And the local and the global, I compare how baseball and other sports are involved in their own community. But when traveling to places further away, you meet new people, new places, learn new things from different areas about people and their culture, and all the different aspects of how their sports and their community work for them. In my writing process, so I had 6 steps. Is just like learning about different ways communities interact, how baseball is impacted by communities, finding ways that I'm involved in my community, correlating my ancestry to other Cuban and Latin American athletes in the game of baseball, and help talk about athletes' mental health and how I contribute and support ways to change this. and inform others about baseball and sports community and the things we go through, such as mental health and other like physical pain in just our daily lives. And from this paper, I've learned so many things about my mental health as an athlete and how I've grown as a person over the years. I've learned many things about communities and cultural aspects and out of sports and the impact that communities have on an athlete in their certain sport and health as an athlete. Thank you, and any questions?